Hi everybody, this is Debbie from the Inspiration Station. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I will be doing a 2-page layout for my grandson's 3rd birthday. He is currently obsessed with excavators and construction equipment, and that was the theme for his birthday. So I will be using clip art that I purchased from an Etsy shop. Clip art is similar to digital scrapbooking collections, but they're simply individual images rather than coordinated papers and embellishments. I use my print and cut feature on my Cricut to create those images, those embellishments, and we actually used some of them for decorations for his party, and I used them to make his birthday card and the envelope, so they really came in handy. They're very cute. So I started out by matting my photos, and I chose to matte them in black. I'm going to be using a printed paper that looks like dirt, and I didn't want the white matte showing. I didn't think it would look good with the dirt background, so I chose to do it in black. Now, one of the things that my mother commented on is the decorations being orange, yellow, and black looked very much like Halloween instead of construction. So I had to be very careful not to use papers that reflected that. So I did find this paper. This is a very old and very thin paper. I believe it came from most likely a Paper Studio pad from Hobby Lobby. It's that thin. So I'm going to use that. And it is supposed to be wood. It's supposed to be like the end of a tree or lumber or something. But I thought that it looked enough like dirt that it would pass for the background for the excavator. So I'm going to get that stuck down. Now, originally I did start with a sketch from Allison Davis, but as I got working on the page, I realized that my photo sizes were not going to work in the same way that her page did, and I needed to have more room. I'm using that card up top that says Happy Birthday. That is actually a card front that Reminisce many years ago came out with a Happy Birthday line. It was designed to make cards rather than scrapbooking, and it had, I think, 6 different card fronts on the page. And so that one, because the colors were so perfect, they went really well with the theme of the party, even though I know they're printer's blocks, they're not construction related, but the color works really well. So I chose to use that as my title. And that is much larger. That was not on Allison's sketch, so I had to pull that, the page on the left, I had to do completely different. I think on her sketch she only had the 2 photos, and it was a much shorter background piece, and she had something on the left. I think it might have been a sunburst or something like that on the left-hand side. So after I cut the background pieces, which I believe are 7 by 11, that was about as far as I went with the sketch. After that, I kind of took off on my own. Some of the photo sizes are the same on the right, but then I changed up where the journaling spot and things went to. So it's kind of a combination of her sketch and my ideas, so I guess it was inspired by a sketch. But other than that, I really didn't follow it. So I'm going to get these photos down on the left, and I will adjust them a little bit later on in the process, because at first I wanted them kind of staggered, crooked, but once I got everything else going, I didn't really care for it, so I needed to straighten that one on the left out. On the right, I have photos of the family, his mom and dad and sister, and then my husband and myself, and pictures of him with his cake and blowing out the candle. He was just so excited. His parents got him this remote control excavator, ride-on excavator loader thing, and they had it stored in the shed in the back of their yard. And during the party, his dad went down and opened the shed up and drove it out with the remote, and he was just so excited. He went running right for the shed and hopped in that thing, and even though he's only 3, he figured out how to run that thing within about 3 minutes. He had it and he was tooling all over the yard. He was just having a ball with it. So I'm going to start by putting these photos down. At first, I was going to center those 2 square photos height-wise with that center photo, because they are not the same height. I use the print to size app, but for some reason it never actually prints to size. I set it at 3 by 3 and they came out like 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 or something like that. So they didn't fit. And so I thought I would center them with that one in the middle. And then I didn't have enough room between the upper photos and the lower photos. So I ended up pulling everything off and moving them around again. Now, one of the things I try very carefully to do is not stick things down permanently, not press them hard, because I do use the ATG adhesive and it's pretty permanent. So I want to be able to move things around a little bit if I have to. Now this is a very old metal ruler, plaid tearing ruler that I've had in my stash for at least 20 years, maybe longer, or maybe 25. It's old, but it's heavy duty and I love it because it's just so heavy. And I don't use it very often, but this seemed like a perfect opportunity. So I used some of the paper that I had cut off originally from those background sheets, and I'm going to use those as a border along the bottom. Now you may notice that I brought in some dark charcoal colored paper on the corners. I thought that looked like the diamond plate that's on construction vehicles, the treading that the guys stand on. So I wanted to include that. Wasn't really sure how. You'll see that I do move the one on the left. I bring it down to the bottom eventually. I lost a little bit of footage in there, but it's okay. You get the idea. So I am going to lay out all of my little images that I cut with the Cricut, and I'm going to use some foam squares to pop those up. These foam squares are from Scrapbook Adhesives by 3L. I love them because they are thin. I think they're only like a 1 millimeter thickness, and they're also in black. So for using on dark papers or with darker images, they don't show that white as easily. So I just like the way that they work. So here's where I pulled up the whole background. And as I said, I was glad that I hadn't pressed it down really tightly, because I realized once I put the border on, I didn't really have enough room. It looked too crowded at the bottom. The space at the top seemed to be too high. So I'm going to move it up, and then I'm going to pull it up again and move it back down a little bit. So yeah, I make a lot of changes when I work, but I do end up just eyeballing it where I thought it would go. When I got to the right-hand side, I didn't have such an easy time pulling it up. Apparently, I pressed that side down a little bit harder, and I ended up tearing some of the cardstock underneath, but it was okay because where I moved it to, it was still covered up. I'm going to use the T-square there just to keep it from sticking back down on the right, as I needed 2 hands to try and pull it up on the left. So I'm going to pull that up and move it up to line up with the page on the left. Yeah, you can see where I tore the cardstock there. It gets covered. It's okay. It's just paper. So we're going to line that up. Then I will go about adhering all of those clip art pieces at the bottom. Put the border down. Let's see, where are we? Yes, so I'm going to stick the border down first. I just thought that looked really cute. I thought it looked like dirt, you know, that it was the torn edge and everything. I thought was cute with the images. I liked this set because it wasn't photorealistic. It wasn't, you know, the equipment wasn't super realistic looking, but it also wasn't too cartoony, if you understand what I mean. It's probably not making any sense, but I wanted something that was appropriate for a little boy, but not babyish. So I thought these images worked out good. Now, what I'm putting down now is one of the embellishments that came in the collection, and I'm going to put it up there in that open space on the upper right hand side, and that is where the journaling was supposed to go on the sketch, but I liked this here, and I'm going to do the journaling on some strips and attach them instead. So in a minute, once I get all these down, I will do my journaling, and I'm going to be using the strip journaling. I'm using a Google Doc that Nicole created. Her name is Coley Bing here on YouTube, and she created a Google Doc that fits a die from Hero Arts perfectly to make your journaling strips. I believe the die is called Sentiment Strip Die, and I'll show it here in a minute. It just cuts, it's made to cut your sentiments if you were stamping. I guess they have some stamps that match it. But she created the document and figured out the spacing on it, and thankfully, because I probably never would have gotten it. And I'm going to use that to do my journaling and cut it out. And I believe I did record that. Sorry, it's just taking me a minute to get all these little things down. And I still have the traffic cones to stick down. I did do this voiceover. This is like the third time I've tried to do it. The first time my microphone wasn't plugged in, and I was really upset with myself because I got through it in one take and then went to play back and there was no sound. So sorry if this is taking a little longer than anticipated. It was much smoother the first time I did it, but I didn't get it recorded. So it is what it is. Anyway, I'm going to show, there it is. There's the die from Hero Arts. It's one of their fancy dies, and it is called Sentiment Strips Die DF087. And this is, you can see it here a little bit. This is half of the Google Doc. Nicole created its landscape, so it has two sides to it. You can do the journaling, do a lot of journaling at one time. I just needed a little bit, so I didn't even use a full sheet of paper. I just used a scrap of white and lined it up. And you'll notice that I did, I have black background with white text. And I just did that in the document by changing the background color first to black and then changing the font color to white. And I thought that was, it was a good way to bring out the journaling without it blending into the background. If it was on white paper, it would have blended into the background more. You'll see some stickers on the photos, some word strips on the sticker, on the photos. Those are not stuck down yet. Those are Cocoa Vanilla stickers that I found. It was from one of their boy lines, and I thought the sayings were perfect. I believe it says, living large, 100% wild child, and can't stop, won't stop. And that was definitely his thing that day. Once he saw that and got on it, he was not going to stop. In fact, my daughter had originally wanted to give him the gift and then do cake. And I told her, no, you need to do the cake first, because once he gets on that thing, he's never coming back for the cake. And I was right. There was no getting him off that thing once he got on it. So my journaling just talks about how he's currently obsessed with these things, and that he was so excited to get his, what he calls loader. He can say excavator, and he usually does, but for some reason he decided that that was a loader, and the way he says it is so cute. It's like loader. Anyway, my final addition to the page is these brown enamel dots. I put some on the upper right, and then I'm going to put some down by the journaling, and that will finish up this page. You will see a still at the end. And if you enjoyed this content, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.